What if everything you can see is only the surface of what truly exists? And what if the unseen world is not somewhere beyond, but the deeper layer of the world you already inhabit? For centuries, humanity has treated visibility as the measure of reality. We believe that what can be observed, measured, or proven is real, and what cannot be seen is either doubtful or imaginary. Yet some of the most fundamental aspects of existence, gravity, consciousness, love, and even the structure of the atom, remain invisible. We infer them through their effects, not through direct sight. Ibn Arabi, the 13th century Andalusian philosopher, invites us to rethink this assumption. For him, the unseen is not a parallel universe, but the hidden dimension of this one. To understand what it means to see the unseen, we must first explore why the modern mind has become blind to it. We live in what can be called the age of measurement. From psychology to economics, knowledge is validated through data. This has given us extraordinary precision, but it has also created a subtle kind of blindness, a bias toward the measurable dot in neuroscience. This tendency aligns with the concept of predictive coding, the idea that perception is not a passive recording of reality, but an active construction. The brain constantly generates models of the world and updates them with sensory input. What cannot fit the model is often ignored or reinterpreted. This means that our experience of reality is filtered, not just by the limits of our senses, but by the expectations of our mind. If something cannot be predicted, the brain's default response is to erase it from awareness. Psychologically, this creates a narrow bandwidth of perception. Our attention becomes trapped in immediate sensory data movement, color, threat, while subtler dimensions of experience fade into the background. Over time, this sensory dominance leads to existential fatigue, a sense that life feels flat, mechanical, and disconnected from meaning. Modern humans have come to mistake visibility for truth and invisibility for non-existence. Ibn Arabi saw this confusion as the root of human suffering, and he offered a metaphysical model to restore balance. Ibn Arabi's philosophy of being offers one of the most sophisticated frameworks in Islamic metaphysics. He interprets the distinction between the seen and the unseen not as two separate worlds, but as two aspects of one continuum of existence. The apparent represents what consciousness can access through sensory means. The hidden represents what consciousness can grasp only through insight or presence. For Ibn Arabi, these are not two different places. They are two layers of perception within the same reality. The unseen is not absence, it is depth. The visible world is its outer skin, and consciousness is the organ capable of perceiving both. The world is imagination within imagination. This is not a denial of reality, but a profound observation about how perception operates. What we see is not reality itself. It is a reflection of it within the mirror of consciousness. Modern neuroscience supports this view. The brain does not receive the world directly. It constructs an internal simulation constantly adjusted by incoming sensory data. What we experience as the world is a reflection of both external input and internal expectation. The world we see is a projection of deeper realities reflected through our perceptual system. The problem is that the mirror can be distorted by emotion, ego, or bias. To see clearly means to polish the mirror, to refine the instrument of perception itself. Ibn Arabi described existence as each layer expresses a different degree of reality. Material, the world of physical phenomena. Imaginal, the world of symbols, dreams, and archetypal forms. Intelligible, the realm of pure meanings and concepts. Divine, the level of undifferentiated being, beyond all form. He argued that all levels are interdependent. What appears in the physical originates in the imaginal and intelligible dimensions before taking form. This implies that the visible is a crystallization of the unseen dot. To see the unseen is to reverse the process of perception, to trace the physical back to its metaphysical origin. Ibn Arabi often wrote that the heart has two eyes, one that sees the world and one that sees God. In his terminology, the heart is not the emotional organ but the center of consciousness, the locus of perception that bridges body and spirit. Modern neuroscience provides an interesting parallel. Through the concept of interoception, the brain's perception of the internal state of the body. Studies show that people with higher interoceptive awareness display greater emotional regulation and intuitive accuracy. This corresponds to what Ibn Arabi called the eye of the heart. When attention turns inward, perception becomes more refined. Inner stillness increases sensitivity to subtle information, the kind that sensory instruments cannot capture. Self-awareness is not a retreat from the world, but an expansion of perceptual bandwidth. The unseen begins to register not as belief but as lived experience. At the core of Ibn Arabi's metaphysics lies his most challenging statement: there is no existence but God's existence. This does not imply pantheism or the erasure of individuality. It means that all forms of existence are manifestations of a single, infinite reality expressing itself in finite ways. The visible world, therefore, is the unseen made tangible. Modern physics offers a metaphor here. The quantum field, invisible and unmeasurable, directly generates every observable particle. Matter is not separate from the field. It is the field in a localized mode. For Ibn Arabi, the same applies to being. The unseen is not behind the world. It is the world seen through limited awareness. The boundary between the visible and invisible is not ontological but cognitive. If the unseen can be perceived, is it still unseen? Ibn Arabi resolves this paradox by redefining perception itself. The act of seeing does not convert the unseen into the seen. It reveals that the division was never real. The unseen remains unseen only to the degree that the observer's awareness is limited. He distinguishes two kinds of knowledge: knowledge by representation, mediated by symbols, language, and measurement; knowledge by presence, direct, immediate awareness without intermediary. The unseen belongs to the second mode. It is not accessed by sensory extension or imagination, but by purified attention, a state in which consciousness becomes transparent enough for reality to disclose itself. To see the unseen is not to gain mystical power, but to remove the cognitive barriers that fragment perception. Seeing becomes a form of being. Awareness and reality coincide. Modern cognitive science agrees that attention determines perception. Selective attention filters which parts of reality are experienced consciously. Practices that stabilize and widen attention, such as mindfulness, focused breathing, or rhythmic recitation, weaken automatic filtering and allow subtler information to surface. Ibn Arabi's approach can be expressed in 3 stages. Cognitive detachment: observe mental and sensory processes without full identification. This opens a reflective space. Inner reflection: engage the imaginal faculty as symbolic cognition. Presence awareness: cultivate steady, embodied attention to the present moment. The result is not mystical escapism, but cognitive expansion, an increase in the mind's resolution. The unseen becomes experientially accessible, not through belief, but through perception refined by discipline. The unseen, Ibn Arabi teaches, is not hidden from us, it is hidden by us. Our filters, expectations, and sensory dependence act as veils. His philosophy offers a rational corrective. Reality is one, but it appears as two because perception is partial. Modern neuroscience echoes this insight. Just as the brain filters out sensory data to avoid overload, consciousness filters metaphysical information until awareness matures enough to process it. To see the unseen is not to acquire a supernatural faculty, but to refine perception until it aligns with the full spectrum of being. The veil is not over reality, it is over the eye that looks. To see the unseen, you do not look farther, you look deeper.